I have a submission for the summit, and it is talking about video games and music. Who could have seen it coming? Not a soul. No one. Don't let anyone tell you saw this coming because you didn't. This was new. It's crazy information. It is. Look at my background. It was gonna happen, right? It was coming. It's just what it was gonna be. Um, so it is kind of a giga spoilery for Elden Ring. If you wanted to play the game, you can just tell me, and you can skip this, and then you can come back to it after you beat it at some point. I don't know. If you're fine with spoilers, then tap in because it's gonna be cool. Um, yeah. So one of the big things I love about narratives is the aha moment, right? Um, some kind of information that you gain later in the story that allows you to make a connection or like a correlation in your brain that recontextualizes something that came before it, right? That's why I think people love murder mysteries so much. I feel like that's why people love mysteries in general because it's like we have a puzzle but we can't solve it, right? Um, I think that in terms of presentation, a lot of games could be doing that a bit more. And I think Elden Ring does a really wonderful job with it, mostly because I think it's my favorite game ever made. Um, one of my favorite games ever made, anyway. Uh, I'm very kind of biased in that regard, but I find it interesting because it's everything. Elden Ring does this with like all of its presentation down to like the musical motifs, right? Um, and I'm going to walk you through some of that today, and it's going to be great. Now, in order to get the full picture, I am going to ramble a little bit, so I apologize. But there are two characters you need to get to know, um, mostly being America and her daughter, one of her daughters, right? To understand why that's important, we need to discuss a concept God. But many. There are many gods in the world of the universe of Elden Ring, and they're all kind of like abstract concepts that enforce their will through vassals, right? Um, this is where the Elden Ring comes from, right? This is essentially this is the Elden Ring itself. It's given to the person that is like uh, you know destined or decided to uphold this god's will. This god is known as the Greater Will, and it is like an out. It is far, far and away not at all related to anything going on our planet. Uh, only because it's universal, right? It's somewhere else. It sends this to govern the world pretty much. Each of these shapes has like a meaning, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but essentially, this gives the person that wields it the ability to control the law of the world, right? One of these runes is like the rune of death that implies that anything under this order will one day die, right? Eventually, that rune gets plucked from the ring, and people don't die anymore, and instead are just living like emaciated husks, right? Um, so that's kind of the impact and power that this thing can have. Um, with that in mind, godhood is often sought after, right? Like to inherit this is to inherit the power of a god, and it kind of serves as the first step into one of the major themes of the game, that is power and the effects of its pursuit, right? You will pursue power in your own way as everyone else has, and it will change you by doing that, right? Um, the power of godhood is not necessarily something you can just seek out for the love of the game. You have to be decided on by to become like a potential vessel, right? The shorthand for that is Empyrean. So the word Empyrean is just like person destined, potentially able to become a bearer for this thing. Um, eventually, Queen Marika was born. Wow, she's what's known as a Newman. So she lives a very long time, um, regardless of her now deific position, and was recognized as an Empyrean uh, to potentially inherit this Elden Ring, right? Pretty cool. She is also from a group of. There's like an important little piece of like narrative information um, that I'm going to hold back a little bit, just because it's the same, right? It's just, I want to take you through this in a way that it also happened to my brain. So just keep in mind that she was born at one point and then inherited the Elden Ring, right? Um, she inherited the Elden Ring and formed what is known as the Golden Order by erecting an enormous tree uh, that kind of serves as the centerpiece for the game, like visually. Um, and anyone that like falls into her order follows its laws and all that goodness. Uh, and she tries to enter like an age of golden life and prosperity, right? Um, Regardless of how that played out, there are some big revelations in the DLC that talk about what this whole pursuit meant for her, right? Um, it is a big theme in the DLC that divinity is actually a cage. There's another character in the game, another Empyrean, who you are chasing down pretty much to stop him from becoming a god. Some out of altruism, some out of like, you know, I'm the main character, dummy. Uh, there are a plethora of reasons why you would want to stop this guy. But essentially, throughout chasing him, you learn that while godhood is like the highest form of power, you can have everything and can do nothing with it, right? You become like a slave to what it is that you chased. Um, so that's pretty freaking sad. That's really sad for her too, because she was like, "I'm gonna become a god," and then she became a god, and it was like, "Wait, this shit sucks." Um, so the big thing about America is that no amount of chasing power will stop her from burning everything she's made down to pursue like a different solution, right? She's very pragmatic, very aggressive, very forward thinking, and very like, go, we're going to solve this, we're going to make something out of this. She looked into the Elden Ring itself after inheriting it and found something in it that she hated. We don't really know what it was, uh, but she decided to just straight up break that shit. She was like, nah, bro, I ain't doing all that. Pop, right? In the beginning of the game has like a cutscene that starts with like hammer noises, and you can see her from the back like hammering something with a big ass hammer. Um, and it's kind of sad. Before she broke this ring and like set the world and set her order into like chaos, she had a bunch of kids. Had so many kids. Um, she had kids with a gentleman named Radigan and kids with a gentleman named Godfrey. Godfrey came first. He was the first husband. He was chill as hell. He was kind of a sick badass. He's got a cool lion now. Uh, you're one of his soldiers. It's kind of not irrelevant to this at the moment, so don't worry about that. The second thing is Radigan, right? Radigan is a champion, quote, possessed of red locks, right? So he's got like this really like aggressive, fiery orange hair. Um, and there are like other demigods in the game that also have that hair color, right? Um, all of America's children, regardless of like their other parentage, are demigods, and they are potential Empyreans to inherit whatever Elden Ring, whatever outer will they can get the hands on, right? They can, so they're potentially able to do that, right? Um, so with that in mind, the kid we need to care about right now is Melina. Hey, Melina. So she's like your best friend in the game. Um, she serves as your primary guide and primary source of information regarding America, right? Because you only see America once. That's at the end of the game, right? Uh, and then it's just kind of like statues of her out and about. But Melina can like recite to you like whispered words or like echoes of what was once said in one place by America, right? So you can learn a bit more about her and her mindset going forward. Melina has one goal, and it is to get to the base of the Erd tree, which is that big ass tree that America made, to determine why she was born the way she is. She has no physical body. She is a spirit, and she kind of rides with you and your horse. Uh, and she needs you to take her to the tree so that she can figure out what she needs to do. And then once she figures that out, remake the deal and try to help each other out, right? Like, it's cool. Um, she's great. Love her to death. Eventually, you make it to the tree, And at the base, you find out that like thorns have sealed it away, right? It has shut the door to go talk to Marika, who has been missing since the shattering of the Elden Ring, right? And Melena's like, "Oh, I get it. I have to become fuel for a fire that can burn this down, so that you can go inside and fix things." Um, and there is a way you can like circumvent that. Kind of a bullshit ending, in my opinion. I don't like it very much. But you can instead burn yourself instead of her, which I hate that ending so much. Anyway, Melina is you're her friend, right? And she's guiding you somewhere, and you're guiding together. That's really cool. That's all like the character information you need to know right now. Oh my god. Okay, so for the music itself, right? What are we talking about here? Um, the first song I'm going to show you, it boots up at the start of the game every time. It will load. It will essentially just start playing whenever you load the game, and it's the menu music, right? Okay, so that's like the first important section of this song, right? Um, well, well, let's do a little bit more, I guess. As the intro music, right? It's pretty cool. For the terms of our discussion today, there are three elements I want you to be listening for. Kind of four. Um, First is this little harp section. It's a little quiet, so I'll try to be quiet. But listen for like the lower harp and then the upper harp. Right. You hear that, right? Like that little like it's very low, very quiet, and then there's that high bit that just like cuts through it like a knife through butter, right? It's very bright. Um, a third element I want you to listen for here is this build up, and like the metallic ringing that comes at the peak of it. And then it's just boom bombastic, right? Like welcome to the game. It's really cool. Ba-da-da-dum, bum, ba-da-da-dum. Right? Just keep this bit in mind too, because it will come back later. So the things to take away from that one: the two different types of harp, the build up, and the kind of like explosive entry, and then just like the rest of the piece is very like bombastic, sort of getting things going. The next time you hear some of these elements together is towards the last like 30% of the game. You have completed most of it at this point. You have 1, 2 sections left until you're done. Um, it is essentially when you get to the fire that could burn down the tree. And you have options here. You can either do it yourself or you can get Melina to do it. And I think the best ending is getting her to do it, regardless. But this is her purpose, right? She's come here to do this and has followed you all the way, and is like, are you ready to burn the tree down?" And you're like, "Sure, boss, let's make it happen." Uh, I'm gonna just play the cutscene without talking, and then I'll point out the important bits. See if you can catch them without me saying them. Cutscene time.
O Erd tree, you shall burn. Burn for the sake of the new Lord. Thank you for guiding me here. The one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death. Goodbye.
Very beautiful cutscene, very sad. And then you wake up in Giga Time Hell, and everything's terrible. But we're not really worried about Giga Time Hell right now. There's a couple things we are worried about, though. Number one, did you catch the harp bits in here? That's really... It starts off with this, right? It has this... obviously, there's like environmental music. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit so I can talk over it. We're going to be looking mainly for like these harp pieces again, because they come back and you can hear it easily peasy, like the high bit. And then there's like a general shape to this that I want to point out going forward that is different than what we heard before. So you can see she has burn scars, my fucking poor girl. Listen to this harp, right? There's that low harp. There's the high harp, right? So already, this is the second time you've heard this like harp correlation, like these two pieces of harp playing together, like all the way back from the intro, right? Those are going to repeat throughout the piece, but the bigger thing I want to point out here is connecting those two pieces of information and recontextualizing it by playing a different theme, right? So whatever that is connects that motif, that heart motif connects to something else, right? It's not necessarily like the intro of the game song. There is something going on that connects to that also affects Melina, right? The thing I want to listen to also shape-wise here, which is different, is listen to the strings, right? There weren't really strings in the first chunk of the opening song, but this one actually does have like a series of like medium to low strings, and then one really like present forward cello voice that just like kind of drifts its way down. But if you listen to like the shape, listen to what the the strings actually sound like and the way that it feels like they're moving. I don't have a good way to describe it, but like listen to the strings, I guess.
O Erd tree, you shall burn.
They have this like weird descending relationship with the harp going on in the background, and try to set up this like feeling of melancholy sort of drollness. Um, and it moves like ba da 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 da, right? It's really nice. It's really pretty, and it's really freaking sad. Uh, it gets repeated, except this time in like the front voicing of the cello here.
Burn for the sake of the new law.
Except in the front facing, it goes ba da da da, and then it goes up. It inverts upward instead of like continuing to descend, right? And for the first time at this point, also, we hear the harp go upwards instead, as well.
Thank you for guiding me here.
One last high bit. It goes back up, right? It ascends back up the motion a little bit, and I think that's really interesting. So we can, at this point, clearly identify that the first motif that you hear with both the harp pieces is something unrelated to the introduction to, like, it's connected to the intro to the game and connected to Melina in some way. This, like, sad movement of the cello and, like, the strings in correlation to that, at this point, sounds like it's related strictly to Melina, because you've never heard this before, right? The next time you hear these elements together is the end of the fucking game. Um, so kind of listening to this, you pull up to the Erd Tree. You get through Giga Time Hell, and then you go back to the Erd Tree, and then you pull up, and you can actually go inside of it now, which is dope, right? Like it's really cool that you can go inside. You walk in, you get flashbanged. That's how it goes. But finally, you've made it to the end of your journey to meet with Queen America the Eternal. But alas, she is being crucified. Has some kind of weapon pierced through her abdomen, specifically like her lower abdomen. There's that hammer. Okay, before we go any farther, that is like a really big spoiler. It is crazy. It is. Radigan is mentioned a lot throughout the rest of the game, right? He is mentioned in many, 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 many other places. He has other kids that are not directly like America's kids. But it is at that point in the game, if you haven't figured it out already, that Radigan is America. They are one and the same, right? They are the same entity eventually. Um, there's that really big wind up, and I know I just killed the momentum. I'm gonna go back just a little bit because it is a really cool build up. Wrenches the hammer from the stone. Well, excuse me, sir. Anyway, this playthrough that he does actually just like cuts off here at the end and then like goes through the fight, but it resets the music and I find that quite annoying. So I'm gonna play this like intro for you from this song, so you can hear the full thing. But there, you can already hear the elements, right? You can already hear those elements that jump back from the beginning. You can hear like the build up into like the metallic ring, into the actual bombastic sort of like fight theme. But they added elements to it that made it feel more like destined and dramatic. They have vocals now. There are more strings involved. There's more just general motion in the piece rather than just kind of like loud sound. Right? You can hear that kind of like aggression and like predestined, being met with one another. And I think one of the big things about this that feels more like dutiful and more aggressive is that lower string bit, right? Dun 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 dun, right? Like you can hear, it just sounds like honorable combat, right? There's like a sense of duty in this. And again, this serves as like a revamped version of like the intro theme. It's actually really good, but there's something more important that I find in this song. I really recommend you listen to this through the first time if you want. It's really, really good. I'm not going to sit here for the full time because it's going to take forever. But essentially, you do the fight, you fight Ratigan. He's doing all this teleporting and shit. He's gonna kick your ass a lot. But eventually you do kick him, right? You beat his ass a little bit, but obviously there's not enough. It's not all of it. There's a second. It's the final boss of the final freaking game, right? Which brings you to this cutscene. Go ahead and try to find the important elements that we've been talking about so far. Before I repause it, I'll get you a cookie. And then this playthrough skips the cutscene and then resets the music, and it's really annoying. But already there has been some visual re-representation as well, on top of like the musical motifs being pulled all the way back from the beginning, and like key important elements to actually accessing this area. If you remember pulling up, you saw America have this sort of thing stabbed through her. You can see that there are actually gaps in these sorts of diamond shapes. Which I mean, come on, right? Like you see this shit, right? It actually it pulls the sword out of the water, right? Like it creates the sword. That it does that to you. It does to you what it did to her, right? Like it can grab you and just like stab you in the chest, and then you just die. So that's an attack to look out for if you're gonna play. But it does. It gets to do that to you, and that's like a small visual recontextualization. But listen to the music, man. Like this is crazy. There's that low harp. There's the high harp, right? Cuts through it again, just like very bright. This beautiful, like, upper alto sort of voicing. I don't know if that's upper alto. I think it's just like alto. I don't know what section that sings, but whatever. So that marks the second section, right? The first section of that was, again, you have the harp pieces, you have the winding of the voice that you have not heard before. It's a new addition to this like sort of motif where there's like something vocal happening, which leads you to believe that it's like America in some way, which I thought was really cool. Like there's the kind of like the harp of like the Elden Ring. In my head at this point, it's like that's like the Elden Ring music is like the intro with the harps is just like the Elden Ring itself. The upper bit is Marika trying to like find some kind of peace in her position. And then it cuts into this like chorus. Uh, and just listen to the movement of this too. Listen to the movement of the strings in this section. Like, holy shit, listen to that. That's just like bar for bar what you heard on the mountaintop with Melina when she's burning the tree down. That like really lonely, like sad cello section, the right? And you just heard it here, but like a whole like you heard the like the whole all of the strings doing it, but you still have that like sense of like duty and moving forward, which I just think is so interesting. And that's like the second section of the song. There's a third section here at the end. It all comes to a head. You have the chorus, the high voice. Gotta hit the Millie Rock. The harp! What up, dog? Welcome back. So, at this point, after hearing this for the first time, first of all, finding the Elder Beast is really fun and it's really gorgeous. Uh, but hearing this all come together, like musically, has been so fascinating to me because for the longest time it stayed this way. It was like again the heart pieces kind of felt like the Elden Ring to me, like the outer, like the greater will doing its own thing, and then you can hear at this point you can hear like this upper voice that is reminiscent of like America in some way, right? I feel like that would be something relating to her and her like actions as like a god. And then you hear like the misery and you see that like really lonely but like dutiful piece and like that re-rendition of what you heard from Melina, her child, right? You hear that sort of like, I know this world hurts and I know this world suffers, but I will pursue nonetheless. I will maintain and I will persevere. Um, and to just hear that side by side, like it fit crazy well in my brain. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, right? Like that makes so it's just awesome. Um, and the DLC actually came out. There was a small reveal. There's a location that's kind of really kind of locked away. You have to go like hunting and find it. Um, it's called the Shaman Village, and it's very understated, right? It's a very kind of quiet place. It's covered in flowers. But like, just listen to this music. It's just the harp. It's just the lower harp. It's not. It doesn't have the high harp at all. Like this whole time you're sitting waiting for it. Like you wait a full like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. There is no high harp. There is nothing that cuts through that. It just stays there and it just stays the same. Um, there are two pieces of information in this story, like in this location story-wise, that like tell you that this is where Marika was born, right? This is where she lived before she became a god. right? This is what she did. Her people like lived here with her. They were like pursued and persecuted, as was she. Um, and there's like essentially after she became an Empyrean, after she became a god, she came back and like blessed this place, um, regardless of the fact that there was no one here, right? From this little tree in the middle, you get a spell that's like a minor Erd tree, which is like pretty freaking cool. Um, but this is that aha moment because hearing this is such a shock after hearing like nothing but like the combination of the harp for the whole time. Just to hear this and be like, oh, this is that lower harp is her, right? Like there's something about that lower harp that like connects to this place more so than it does strictly to America, right? So it's like when this dropped, I was like, holy shit, I don't understand anymore. So I think that like this lower harp is this sort of like connection to America, America who she was before she, found her position as a god. Um, and then there's that high harp bit that to me kind of just sounds like the influence of the greater will at this point because you hear it. Um, you do hear it in Melanie's theme as well. So like you hear like this like the bit of America that like it would be a mother, right? And then you hear who she became through like the greater will or whatever in Melena's piece, and then you have like the full chunk of Melena's theme, which then becomes the final battles theme, which is like life will persevere. Like all that Melina is at this point is like this world sucks, but it's not worth destroying, right? People still live here. Things still change. Life is still worth living. There is beauty in living through the chaos and the torment and the mire, right? Um, and that theme is just so beautiful. And like that again, you hear that perseverance, right? And then that becomes like the theme for like the final boss fight, which has all the elements put together in like a way that makes sense in this like stack only because later down the line there was something that was brought up from like way at the beginning of the game that like gets recontextualized entirely. So this is the kind of shit that I love so much about Elden Ring and about like storytelling games in general and games with like a strong narrative presentation is those like ways in which even like presenting details later down the line can completely like recontextualize things if you pay attention, right? And I think it comes from again presenting information that can be connected to something else, and like suggesting a connection or a correlation, but not outright stating it, right? Um, FromSoft is really good at that, and if you've heard anything about Dark Souls 3, like the end theme for that is just like the exact thing I'm talking about, where it's like they don't outright say it until like later, but there's like a twist in that game, right? And it's just so nice. And I love games. I love games so much, and I love it when they do shit like this, uh, where they like present you with pieces that allow you to connect something in your head while not being so outright as to just be like, "Yep, this is how it is 100%." It allows you room for thought and effort to try to figure things out to your own way, and I think that's really nice, and I think that's great. And I want to make something like this so fucking bad you have no goddamn idea, bro. You have no clue.